All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock on Monday, December the 22nd, and Bria is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Aye. Aye.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh man. Thank you to everybody that is thank you to everyone that's joining us tonight. We do have all 9 directors in place, and so I do establish a quorum for us. And comments for the record, just from the president to say, all have a Merry Christmas. Thank you for everything that people have done throughout the month for our community. We've raised money, we've given things to Visto, we've held events for kids and done all sorts of stuff. And we have the lodge decorated. So, but it's all because of our community and the volunteers that we have. So thank you very much. And thanks to our staff, I know who've been very, very busy, especially in the lodge this month. If you've been here, you couldn't find a place some days. So anyway, any comments from our members for tonight? All right, Jim.
Hi, Jim Adams, lot 666. And first of all, Merry Christmas and thank you guys for doing what you're doing. And I'm just representing the MGA on what I'm about to say here is as I see on your agenda that you have some topics about tea times and that kind of thing. And first of all, I want to say I totally understand that if you've gotten comments before, I've seen them myself, where certain people don't feel like they get tea times because there's several tournaments. I used to be a weekender. When I first came here, I was not in the MGA for the first year, and I kind of had that same feeling from time to time. But I did join the MGA, and I never had that feeling again. And it's just because now you know that you play with a group, and I will say the MGA represents 470 golfers in Kiowa. And I know the WAGA, and I'm not speaking for them, but I know they have like roughly 350 signed up in their group. Those are all members. And so in most all of those tournaments are MGA or WJ or there's the kids. And the ones that we had, I think when we added some for the par 3 this year, it was for kids, and which I thought was a real admirable thing to do to get more kids tournaments because that'll be great to cultivate golf out here. So I'm just saying those times are being taken up by members and they're doing something they want to do out here. And so I hope we don't change anything in that regard, but I just want to give comments representing the MGA and say, I understand where it comes from, but we're all members out here and we represent quite a few of them.
Thank you, Jim. Any other comments from our members? Larry? What's your lot number?
1741.
Thank you.
Since Jim brought this up, it reminded me. So I had someone ask me, do we audit the MGA finances? Had someone ask me that, and it's kind
The answer is no, we don't have official audit of it. It's a private organization. It's not that much money. Now the board does, review the finances monthly and accounts for every check that's written. There's not that many, maybe 4 or 5 a month. And then when we have a big tournament, there's twice a year, we might have a big tournament that might go to 15 or 20 checks. So we review all that. At the end of the year, when we have funds left over, we typically, and just recently, we gave it back to the POA. to the POA, and it's not POA money, but we recently donated so the par three could do those mats up on the par three. So we usually donate money back or give it back to the membership or donate it to the POA to use it for various purposes.
Okay, but there's no actual audit of this.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, I mean, I don't think there's enough money there to audit, but yeah, right,
Okay.
right.
Well, I was asked that and I
No,
had no idea.
it's a fair question, and people should know about it. And if the and there's the MGA is concerned about it, those are the members. They should come to an MGA meeting, a board meeting, and ask us those questions. And they're feel free to they get a financial report every month too during the MGA year. So it's all very transparent. I hope so.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the members? All right, moving on. Our next thing on our agenda is approval of the minutes from November 24th.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from November 24th, 2025.
I got Larry as the second. All right. Is there any discussion on the minutes, additions, edits, anything? All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes from November 24th, raise your hand. The ayes have it, and it's 9-0, Kendall. We've approved the minutes from November 24th. All right, Dan, you're up for a financial update.
Can we roll to the next slide, please? All right. Thank you for your time today. I'm going to roll through the November numbers. There's going to be a couple things that are a little unusual as we go through this. You'll see some asterisks and double asterisks, and we'll go through that pretty quickly. It's pretty straightforward. So at the top line, revenue was a little bit higher for the month of November. We're still down, 38,000 over the year. Big chunk of that is our very aspirational hopes for the lodge revenue, which Jeremy and everyone did a great job, getting very, very close to. But that's why we're a little bit off on the revenue side. Expenses, you'll see the first double asterisk there. There were some things that are included there that you probably, wanted to back out. So that $33,000 for the pump hose control panel was covered from excess from last year, but the initial processes of getting that build and into the system was here in November. So you really should take out that 33,000, for the month. So that 59,000 for November or increase in the expenses would really be 26.5. Then if you look at it for the whole year, the expense line would be 99.5 roughly. So we're still, over on the expense side, but not as noticeably as it shows on this slide. So that obviously would fall down to the net revenue line. So you look at revenue, as you said, $12,000 to the good, a couple small items. Building permits really helped us. More money came in than we were anticipating, or run rate from last year around building permits. Citations a little bit lower. Sanitation fee has been off all year since the spring because of the contract change. So I think we're in pretty good shape on the revenue line. If we go to expenses, that's where the next set of interesting things happen. So we move to the next slide. You see, admin was a little bit under, mostly due to staffing. See, some bigger numbers when you get to the lodge, and then when you get to golf course. So Lodge, was really all about staffing. You had salary and benefits over, but then you had another 5 grand over for recruiting, background checks, etc. And food costs were definitely higher, 12 grand higher than budget. Golf courses continue to be over all year. Um, a lot of that had to do with maintenance items. On this one, you see that we have, equipment repair about $22,000. We've had pump house repairs. We've had a bunch of other irrigation equipment repairs. So if you look at the full year for the golf course, we're probably $160,000 over roughly for the year on the expense side. And a lot of that to do with, you know, expense repair, due to repair and maintenance that was not necessarily budgeted for. All right, moving on. Dylan?
Question, like, and this may be to Rich versus you, but not bill us, and then we just took 4 months worth of expense.
Dan, yeah, I had one too, on salaries, for the golf course area. It's continually been, over the last several months. Was that due to staffing I was just trying to understand where?
Yeah, we hire people for the golf course, but basically out of necessity and a little bit ahead of budget. Basically, a part-time position, hired full-time, that is not a lot.
Yeah, so it was Rich and Brian's decision to reconfigure kind of that staffing model so that obviously when you start hiring full-time versus part-time, then you get the benefits kick in. And so all those things kind of add up. Yeah, and that's the other piece around the golf is that as we prepared, as Rich and Crystal prepared the 26 budget, they built in those higher rates. So, there's always unexpected things, but we should be in a little bit better shape going into 26 or for 26.
Well, if you're not, it's the microphone or if it's not turned on, Rich. And I know because I watch at home. If I can't hear here, I certainly can't watch here at home. So,
Thanks, Tina. Going to the reserve funds, ARF is, CARF, a little bit of spending, the piece that, gets me concerned is you look at down on the left-hand side towards the bottom of the golf course reserve fund, $580,000 in that fund total. If we want to do greens replacement someday, it's probably going to be more than $580,000. So I think some people thought the golf course reserve fund, mistakenly thought the golf course reserve fund was going to be the answer for all the financial, issues that we have maintaining the golf course. And that's just not the case. So the golf course reserve fund is doing what it was intended to do, was to highlight what money we have for the golf course and what we're trying to spend it on. So I know a couple months ago, we went back through all the reserve funds and, this is one that, is going to go to zero at some point, unless we do something noticeable like an assessment for big ticket items like the greens. Yeah, so then the right-hand side, we have interest income year to date. This is everything between, this is for the reserve funds, $309,000. Initiation fee, I think actually the most recent data was that we're at $250,000, which is pretty close to where we're budgeted for the year. So pretty much spot on. So between interest income and initiation fee, we're going to be well more than $500,000 ahead, which a few years ago, that was zero or pretty much close to zero between interest income and, obviously there was no initiation fee. The next slide. Checking deposits. We'll roll through that to the next slide. The only thing I want to point out on this slide is that as of next month, because this is the wrong, this is 10/31, it's the wrong slide, but at the end of November, which is in the email from Crystal, I had the right slide, so I don't know what happened. But indicates all the money that was in the par 3 construction has now been moved into maintenance. So those construction accounts are now zeroed since there's no more construction at the par 3. So it just will make it easier. As of end of November, there was like, I think $560,000 in the par 3 maintenance. If we think it's roughly $200,000-ish a year for maintenance on the par 3, that gives you 2.5 years worth of maintenance money if you didn't add any more money to that pool. Next slide, please, Scott. We continue to have very short-term investments on the CD front. I've met with Crystal and Rich, and after the first of the year, we are reconfiguring the investment strategy to go a little bit longer to try to get a little bit more income here while we can, as rates just continue to drop a little bit. And we also have some time with the folks that support our Fidelity Investments account to help kind of go through that and think about what else could we be doing on the Fidelity account side to help get a little bit more income. So if you roll through the next slide, Scott, one more. And then, the last slide, if it's there. There we go. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about, and this really supplements what the article that was in the communique this month around budgets. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to read it. If you haven't had a chance to read it, it really was well done. It just talked about what we face every year as we start to go through the budgets. So what this is just kind of a look. If you're Rich and Scott, and you start thinking about all the expenses here at Kiowa, it starts to get pretty interesting. This is inflation over the last 5 years. The overall CPIU for DFW was 24.5% roughly up. But when we start thinking about things like roads, asphalt wasn't up as much. But we start thinking about things that you add on if you're doing roads, right? You need asphalt, but then you need the equipment. Then you need to put diesel on the trucks to run the equipment. You start laying, the costs on there, you lay the wages on there, and you start to see that doing things like projects like roads or building, you get a lot higher inflation than just the overall inflation that we experience on all things. And then, we have other things like commercial insurance, property insurance, 40 to 70% on average, the Texas Department of Insurance. Electricity, 30 to 50% over the last 5 years. And that doesn't count, all the stuff that's going on with water. Right, this year was a $50,000 overage for water compared to 24. So, all those things start to add together. So to me, it's just continuing to help people understand, what we're up against, because I know there'll be feedback that we're doing another 5% increase. And, why is that? Inflation's only up 2.7%. Why are we going 5% on O&M or dues? All right. With that said, what questions do you have for me about any or all of this? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. All right, moving on. The next thing on your agenda is committee updates. And in your packet, you have a couple of them. One with lake management, we're adding Mike Rembrandt. And then safety and security, we're adding Scott Manning as ex officio and taking Rich off as ex officio, and then also removing Monroe Salzman. Is that still correct, Dylan? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve those? Dylan and Cecil? All right. And any discussion on those? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand of those committee changes. All right. It is 9-0, no opposed. All right, moving on. Golf calendar ad hoc committee. Dylan, I think that's yours.
Yes, we went back and forth several days on how to solve this problem. I don't think we have it completely solved. However, I think we made some good headway. Uh, I think the main concern was weekends during prime golf weather months. So we did shuffle some things around, added, took away, then some we added back, but the edits are on the sheet in red if you want to look at them specifically. Again, I think there's some more work to be done regarding how the point system works separately, but I don't know that that's a function of this golf calendar committee. So what we have suggested is in your packet for the from the golf committee. It didn't go back to the golf committee, but Ronnie's going to talk about it here. But the updated calendar is in our packet, correct, Rich? So this is our recommendation, as good as we can get it by what I would call the deadline. So any questions, happy to answer. But basically, the changes are in red specifically from the last time you saw that golf calendar.
Is there anything from your committee that you want to share with the rest of the board?
Again, the main concern are folks that I would call weekenders or full-time employees or have full-time jobs that are trying to get tee times on the weekend. And I'm not going to say general consensus, but consensus is that it's the same people on the golf course all the time, and they're not able to get tee times because they don't know when they're going to be up here specifically, and they're not necessarily on the app 3 days in advance. So we feel, they feel, who everyone is, the members feel that it's the same people playing golf all the time, call it. So we need to solve that problem. I think we tried to open up as much as we can from a calendar tournament perspective, but I think there's more work to be done on how kind of the points work. But for this committee, I think the task we were asked to do, I think it's pretty well accomplished what we can do from a tournament perspective. But again, I think there's more work to be done with Chelsea reservations and the points, kind of.
Okay. Go
I
ahead.
agree with
Dan.
everything that Dylan said. I think, what I saw and what caused some interaction was, almost half of the nice weather weekend tee times were taken up by events. So that if you're, to Jim's point, if you weren't an MGA member, or you're someone that can't play golf, except on the weekends, half the tee times were not available to you. So, that definitely, as we all have heard, caused frustration with certain group of people at Kiowa. So, this is not a major change, but it is, to Dylan's point, it's a move to help kind of, in my opinion, balance better the availability of the course for people that can't play during the week and play on the weekends. And it gives some people that are part-time a little bit more opportunity.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, the other
Cecil?
thing is Dylan talked about the Chelsea system, making sure that we understand and refine it so that those people that are looking for tee times that don't have points slot into, or at least close to the times they're looking for. And that should happen if Chelsea's working the way it's supposed to.
All right. So everything's going to be addressed under the golf committee,
That's what I was about to
right?
say.
Is that correct? Okay. And so is there any need to continue the ad hoc committee? It sounds like you've met your charge.
Fair. If we want to dissolve the ad hoc committee, I will make that motion to formally dissolve, the
Just
ad hoc
asking.
committee.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
we've conquered it. Yes.
Okay.
Dissolve. Yeah, no, sorry.
All right. So I have a motion to dissolve the ad hoc committee for the golf calendar, and second by Dan. And is there any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. You've been discharged. Thank you very much for your work. All right, Ronnie, I think that moves to you, the golf committee.
All right. The first thing to note is that I want to thank Dylan for all the work that he did. There's so many opinions. Everyone with a pencil could come up with a different idea of what the percentage is. One of the things that we have to recognize is that if we take away a tournament, we've got the possibility of 470 from the MGA and about 350 from the WGA that are going to be seeking those tee times that we open up. So there's a really tough time to balance it. I think what the golf committee talked about and what the ad hoc committee talked about is that we need to look at the Chelsea tea time arrangement and what it's designed for and whether there can be a change in the basically 9 or 10 day lifetime of the points accumulation. It's roughly 2 weeks, but when you figure, depending on when it starts and when it stops, there's either 1 or 2 non-play days on Monday. So it's a very difficult problem. There are a lot of varying interests that need to be looked at, but I think it's important for this board to look at every issue. We've got the new par three that's coming in that has not received the amount of play that we anticipated. Part of that can be the holidays, part of it can be the weather. And we had a lot of rain for the initial periods. So I think we need to watch that as we go forward. I think everyone knows that that was represented to be a community amenity that would have access for people. We want to be careful not to cover it with tournaments so that it can't be. Lauren has done a very good job of going back through and trying to move those tournaments to a later time when, 3 o'clock, 1 at night, so that it won't impact the play by anyone that wants to play. And right now, anyone that wants to play can play pretty much anytime they want to. We will be looking at in the golf committee, and we talked about it at some point, that there may be a possibility of doing an arrival basis. If you come, you drop a ball in a rack or you check in with the monitor and or the marshal, whoever we have there. And if there's no one there, you get to start. If otherwise they tell you it's 10, 15, 20 minutes and then you can go. So we're just going to have to see what the usage is, and the golf committee will make recommendations at that time. The other thing that we really need to look at is the charter for the golf committee. That's and I'd like to thank Jim Adams for helping me with that. Both of us thought it was just something that kind of happened, and Jim did a lot of homework and found that there was a charter that was developed by the golf committee and submitted to the board of directors in 2017 that approved it, and that essentially provides for the nature of the membership. And it is one member from the MGA and an at-large member from the MGA, one member from the WGA, and an at-large member from the WGA, and then other members from the various golf organizations, so that there's a total of 7, including the chairman, who has to be, or chairperson, who has to be a member of the board. And the voting that occurs there, and the issue would be whether we want to continue with the charter as it is, that basically, unlike the other committees that are all appointed by the president, these are appointed by the election of the individual associations. And there may be some legal ramifications to that in relation to our restrictions and covenants and our bylaws. And I think we need to have our attorney look at that. So that's it in a nutshell. We've got some potential changes we can make. We've got the ability to leave it as it is. I think Lauren has written a compelling letter on what she thinks about where we are right now on the schedule, but I think it's something that the board needs to keep looking at. And as long as I'm on the golf committee, we will continue to look at it and to try to find ways that we can manage the use of the course so that it's equitable to all of our members, and also carries on the important function of the MGA and the WGA, who are very active in taking care of the course and filling divots and buying trees and planting things that need to be planted and giving money that they earn through their activities to a lot of different causes here at Lake Kiowa.
So are you making a motion to approve the golf committee calendar, or actually the golf event calendar for 2026?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. There's a motion to approve the calendar. Chris seconds it. Is there any other discussion? Dan?
I just wanted to make sure it's the one that came out of the ad hoc committee with the changes that were made, correct?
That would be the one that has the red on it in our packet. Is that correct? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It's in your packet now. Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the 2026 golf event calendar, raise your hand. Those opposed? There are none. 9-0, Kendall. It's approved. All right. Ronnie has mentioned the charter. Do you want to take that next, which is E,
That's
golf
fine.
committee charter?
Yes.
All right. And then we'll come back to bylaws to Sean. All right. Ronnie, go ahead.
Again, the charter is something that we don't have in any other committee out here. I understand that some of the committees do have a charter, but I haven't read those. I don't know whether they actually modify any of our other rules. And I think it's important that we clarify, either we recognize the charter and we make the necessary changes in our documentation, such as saying the president shall select all committees with approval by the board to other than the golf committee. And there's also the language that we have now, I think, is not as transparent as it should be when it to it. Thanks. Where it says the LKPOA's golf committee shall consist of at least the following. We need to decide whether we're going to leave that as it is or whether we're going to insert appropriate language that I think we've in the amendment that we'll discuss in a minute would be a place where we could handle that. But right now, the consideration that I'd like to have the other board members discussion on is whether or not we should have an exception of this nature for golf.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah. Is it your suggestion, Ronnie, that that goes back to the golf committee for review and updating and then come back to the board?
Whatever we do, I think it needs to go back to the golf committee.
Okay. All right, then I'll make a motion that it goes back to the golf committee for review and updating and then comes back to the board for approval.
I think he's just a discussion I think he's wanting our recommendations if we like it as is, or if we have specific examples or criteria we want the golf committee to add.
Yes, my basic position is that we had no idea that it was done this way. We knew what the membership was comprised of, but I thought it was just because it had happened that way that people had requested to be appointed and they were appointed and they happened to hold those other positions. But since it is language that's contrary to what the same language is for the other committees, then I think we need to look at that in that light and then go through all of our documents, and I'm happy to do that, to see where we need to make some changes and amendments.
If just a little clarity, I think the issue is the bylaws say the president board, appoints all the members of the committee. This already establishes who's supposed to be on the committee. So it's basically revise it or add language so it complies with the bylaws, or change, make some change so they're coordinating to comply. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I would like to have some feeling from the board before we go back to the golf committee.
Well, my question is, how did we get this far down the line with a golf organization or committee that's been around forever that never went through the standard process? You know, and again, as chairman of the Lake Committee, I knew and understood that we had to have a charter, and it came through this board as soon as we didn't have one to begin with 2 years ago. And when I took over as chairperson, that's one of the first things I did and came here to board for approval because I knew and understood what the process was. So how this never made it that far, I don't understand.
I don't understand. In 2017 is the first time it came to the board and the board approved it, and it's not attached to our bylaws. Jim found it. But our regulate, our,
All right, can I have a point of order, Nancy?
Yes, hold on just a second.
So
Dan?
Larry made a motion, it was not seconded, and then we kind of went on to discussion. So shouldn't either we second and then have discussion or ask Larry to withdraw his motion and then
If there's no second to a motion.
we never asked for a second though.
True. but
So
nobody-
that,
Okay.
that's my,
Is there a second to Larry's motion? Hearing no second, the motion is defeated. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. And so there seems to be discussion about in regard to the charters and what charters we do have and where they are and how they've been approved.
so
Go
I
ahead, Dan.
wholeheartedly agree with Ronnie that it's definitely the language seems to be not aligned with exactly what, the letter of the law would say. And that I'm not disagreeing with the makeup of the committee in any way or the responsibilities in the charter in any way. I just think in agreement with Ronnie that we just need to make sure that we have the language that's all lined up so that no one can come back later and say, hey, why is golf different? Why do you guys always give special dispensation to golf? Right. So just to make sure we have all our I's dotted and T's crossed. So if Ronnie's willing to go back and look at potential discrepancies in language, and then work, and then James can help us with what the language should be, that would be a great idea from my perspective.
I totally agree with that. And I think it needs to be consistent with what we have in our other bylaws too.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. And come back to the board, with that charter and go through the review and the approval of the entire charter, which it would include representatives for that committee.
Cecil, the charter was approved by the board in 2017. And I don't know when the charter was done. It's dated May of 2017 and submitted on May the 9th and approved by the board on May the 16th. So I think the issue is, I'm not sure it was appropriate for them to do that in the beginning without doing the changes that need to be made so that it's consistent. It may just be a housekeeping issue. But there's also a determination that the board needs to make of whether or not that's appropriate for a committee to be determined outside of the way other committee members are. And there may be special instances that something before we actually do it.
So Jim. Mm-hmm.
We need to get input from the community, including the MGA and the WGA. There may be some excellent reasons based on how it ran before and why they changed it. So
I think it's just another good example of making sure that we're consistent with all of our documents that are out there. And so going through and housekeeping and making sure they're consistent and making sure that they're not only appropriately documented, but also that we've appropriately referenced them, if you will, because it says nothing like that in our bylaws. So if we approved a charter at one point in time, it would have been great to put that in the bylaws that it was there. It could have been. It should have been. And so, anyway, I think those are good opportunities for us to go back and check and see where they are. Not only the golf committee, but there's other committees too. So
I think Jim has a question.
that's all right. That's all right. Any other questions or anything from the board? And so what would you like any action to be taken at this point in time? All right. What would your motion be?
My motion would be to take a look, to review the existing golf committee charter, compare it to our other existing documents, including other committees that are standing committees at Kiowa, including the committees authorized by the bylaws, and make sure any and all language in the golf committee charter is aligned. And if there's any changes that need to be made to the charter to make them aligned, and or to any other Kiowa documents, that we call them out and we then build a plan to make those changes.
So who would be doing the review?
Well, Mr. Phillips has volunteered to start and then to review it with James.
Okay.
Is there a second to that motion? Chris seconds it. All right. Any other discussion on that? To go back and review all those existing documents and start our review from there. Bylaws, charters, rules. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right,
Second for that?
Chris.
Oh, okay.
Chris gave me one.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for keeping me honest. And so you have approved that. It is 9-0, and we will start the review. So Ronnie, you'll start that for us.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Sean, I'll jump back to you on bylaws committee.
Thank you. All right, so we have two bylaws that we discussed at last month's meeting. The first is regard to the creation of a road reserve fund, and the second was an amendment to bylaw 10.10, which pertains to the golf committee. Rich, I don't think there were any changes to the road one. Was there? Okay, so last month we voted to propose this language in the upcoming election. I don't know that, Madam President, I don't know if we need to take any action since there's no change on that. It's in the packet, but there's really no action item associated with that. With just the road fund.
All right. Does everyone else agree with that?
Okay.
Since there's
I just want to make sure that there was no
additions.
Okay. I wasn't missing anything. Okay, with the second proposal, this is, you'll notice that the red language is different than what we discussed last month. And for those, just to refresh everyone's recollection, the proposed change to bylaw 10.10 included what is essentially item 3 on the golf committee charter about the selection of the handicap committee. Kind of in the interim between last month and this month is whenever, I guess to Jim's point, we should have known about the charter, but I didn't know about it. So that this kind of came to light that there was this charter. And so then there was a proposal about just changing the language to essentially what's in red, or exactly what's in red, to that the committee specific duties and responsibilities are detailed in the committee's board approved charter. Okay, so that would essentially incorporate the selection of the handicap committee among everything else. Now, the issue we're facing is that in light of what just happened and the task that Ronnie's been given to reevaluate the charter, I'm not sure that we should move forward with this because there's some uncertainty about what's going to happen to the charter. It's bad timing because I think we're pretty much up against the deadline for inclusion in the election. But the good news is I'm not sure that this is really a time critical issue. So I know if Madam President wants to call for a motion at some point, she can, but maybe we could just vote to take this down from the election until we get the charter issue sorted out. And then if appropriate for next election cycle, we can revisit it. But right now, there is an inherent, I would say an ambiguity at best, maybe a conflict at worst about 10.10 as written discusses, dictates that the president appoints the committee, which is not really it's not really consistent with the charter. So there may be some other issues that we just need to iron out before we put this to the community, unless someone feels like we should move forward with something else.
Dan?
No, I totally agree. My opinion on this is that 10.10 in the bylaws is what would be the overarching rule around this, and it would invalidate the golf committee charter in that section at least, because it's contradictory to the bylaw. So it doesn't matter what the board approved, right? If the bylaw is contradictory, then to me, the charter has to get changed because it's not accurate.
I agree. So I just, again, maybe I'm getting the cart before the horse in terms of the discussion, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to put this before the committee if there's just something that is probably needs to be revised anyways.
Board have any other discussion?
Nancy, one of the things that we discussed at length in the golf committee that Rich was in favor of taking this change and enacting it through the rules rather than through the bylaw, because that would be consistent with the charter and address the issues that we needed to address. And we had the language that was recommended and approved by the golf committee that the committee's specific duties and responsibilities are detailed in the committee's board approved charter. And that lets everyone know that there is a charter. So that was an effort to accomplish that.
I'm fine with that, except I would take it a step further and say it needs to comply with 10.10 of the bylaws. So it doesn't matter to me what you put in the charter if it contradicts what's in the bylaws. Well, the golf committee is a bylaw committee, right? It's in there, and it says something different than the charter says. So to me, you could vote to change the bylaw 10.10, or you could update the charter to make it comply with what is in 10.10. To me, those are the options, right? So because you can't have a charter that, no matter who approves it, that's in conflict with the bylaw.
Any other discussion at the board? We're gonna let Jim speak because he's back here. So he's got a question or a comment. So, Jim? Oh, wait.
You're off track, way off track. I mean, if you change the bylaws the way that was written, then the charter is approved by you every year. You don't want to put the charter in anything like a bylaw, then you have to have everybody vote on it. You want the charter to be separate. Hang on, Dan. And then you want the bylaws, as it reads, says do the charter, and you can change the charter. You can change it now, you can change it next week, but you need to change the bylaw right now because that's not the way it's been. When y'all created, whoever did it, a couple years last year or whenever that got voted in, whoever did it didn't have all the history, didn't put it together right. So it doesn't represent what we've really been doing. And so it needs to go back and be changed. The bylaw does this one time and just represent the charter. And then it's perfectly fine. And you can change the charter every year. If you don't like the way the charter is, y'all get the right to change it. But don't include the charter in your bylaws. Or probably shouldn't even include it in the rules. Just have a charter and you can approve it whenever.
So I guess I'm confused because the bylaws weren't changed with the golf committee last year.
They were changed in the last couple of years. That golf committee was not on the bylaws as of 2022. I know it got added in the last couple of years, and it made sense because it's a committee that's been around forever and it's always there.
So it's March 11, 2023 is the last one. I think
probably
when it first got in there.
Right. It wasn't there in 2022.
And there it speaks to the fact that the president does appoint at least 7 members.
That is a conflict. That's the conflict that Ronnie pointed out. And I said, well, we've got this charter that says something different. And I went and got the charter, and then I said, well, we got a conflict with the bylaws and the charter, so we need to adjust both, maybe. But I think the change that's been presented for the bylaw change is perfectly fine to move forward. It's fair to discuss the charter. I think you guys get to approve the members of every committee every year. So what it says in that charter doesn't break any rule. It's not going to be illegal. You're approving all of those members every year. So, I mean, the charter can stand on its own. Maybe it needs a couple adjustments. We're all open to making things better, but
yeah.
I think we have a motion that has been approved, that we're going to go back and review the charter and our documents to ensure that they're consistent. So is there any action that we need as a board to take tonight to change a bylaw? Go ahead.
Last meeting, we did vote to put proposed language on the next ballot. And so I'm prepared to make a motion to rescind that proposed bylaw change. I think there's probably the way the bylaw is written now, probably can just stand. I mean, Jim's point, I don't even know if we need to do anything to the bylaw right now because yeah, that wasn't so. This has kind of been an evolving discussion, and so I think when we come full circle, I'm kind of at the place where I'm thinking we just leave it alone and just address the charter. But whatever the ultimate conclusion, but ultimately, I think it's appropriate just to take it down from the vote right now because there's just some open questions.
So what we approved last time was in regard to the handicap committee, correct?
Correct.
And so is that still a good motion? We approved that last time. Is that still what we want to do? Is the question.
That's in the charter. The charter provides that the golf committee selects the handicap committee. And I guess Rich has brought up that can just be done by rule. To be honest with you, that was something that was kind of a proposal from someone on the golf committee that's also on the bylaws committee, and I didn't probably fully appreciate the reason for that. Because I didn't know the background here, so it's a little bit superfluous probably. But I don't know. I don't know that we don't really need a bylaw amendment to address that issue.
I'm sorry. Do that, and I guess they can choose the next president to choose the 40.40 to charter a guy and add whoever she wants. But I think you're going to create a lot of well, my opinion is, the bylaws, the overarching, decider, the governing documents oversee any other thing, rule, charter. So to me, to act according to our governing documents is what we're here as a board to do. And that if we do something different than knowingly different than what's in the bylaws, then we open up even more risk and concern. All right. So.
Okay. We got it, Jim. We got it. We got it. Thank you. So we approved last time the handicap committee would be added. That's already in the charter, the golf charter, which can be changed by the board at any point in time.
Correct.
So the question before you really is, do you want to add the handicap committee to the bylaw or not? As you've already approved. Is that correct? Is that where we are?
That's a fair statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, what's your recommendation?
So the question is, with absent an amendment to the bylaw, how was the handicap committee appointed? And currently, it's by the golf committee. Is that right? I mean, I'm not on the golf committee, so I just want to make sure that I have the right facts.
My understanding is that's the reason we approved the bylaws change to make it effective with the USGA rules. And so therefore pulling it back seems like we're contradicting what we agreed on to move forward with for the rule.
Okay, so USGA says that the board has to, or I'm sorry, the golf committee appoints the handicap committee. Is that right?
No, that's not.
Yeah. See, this is where I'm not clear, and I mean the reality is that we haven't had a committee meeting since the last meeting, so we don't have a recommendation, which is kind of why I'm hesitant to just cram this forward.
Okay, so currently, we have a charter that the golf committee is operating under. And the golf committee is choosing a handicap committee. They're choosing their own members. Is that correct? That's how it is in the charter. I,
The members of the organization choose. Just to be correct in the wording, the way you said it.
okay. All right. The members of the golf organizations choose their members. Is that correct? Okay. All right. So therefore, still, the golf organizations, those on the golf committee that are approved to be on the golf committee are currently choosing the handicap committee. Is that correct?
That's my understanding,
Okay.
and that's according to the charter.
So will that create any issue for this organization the next year? Because if we pull it off, then that means we wait another year for our members to vote on it.
I don't think that will hurt a thing.
Okay.
We've got the golf committee has approved a new chairman of the handicap committee, and we have, I believe, 5 members on the handicap committee. Some of them are changing, but it's fully functional, and there's never been an objection by the USGA. But we did discuss at golf committee that we changed some language around that we need to make not appointed pursuant to the rules of the USGA, because we're not sure there are any rules that say how we have to do it. It just says you have to have a golf committee.
Right.
And a handicap committee. So that is what we're looking into, and that's part of what we'll have to review to determine what is appropriate under the USGA rules to have the necessary language that is okay for the golf committee and the handicap committee. The only one that the USGA cares about is the handicap committee, because we have to have that to comply with the system that we use to announce and maintain the handicaps.
Okay. James, did you have a question or a comment?
I was just going to kind of reaffirm that, the potentially conflicting language is the very first part of 10.10. It says the president shall appoint a golf committee. And I would also point out, though, that in 10.01, you also have the subject to approval of the board. So there is some safe harbor language that, what we have has been approved by the board. So if it's okay with the president and approved by the board, then we're probably within the safe harbor if we need some time to straighten this out.
So Sean, would you like us to withdraw the bylaws that was approved previously?
I would feel more comfortable waiting for next year. Not saying that the result won't be exactly the same. It very well could be. But anytime you go to the community with a bylaw vote, I just want to make sure we have all the facts and all the reasons in support of the change. And if next year we come back with the same proposal, fine. But at least we'll have fully vetted the requirements of the USGA. Ronnie and his team will have looked at the charter and we get it in compliance or leave it alone. Whatever happens, I don't think there's any prejudice in waiting 1 year. And I think it preserves the trust of the community for not just constantly, coming back with asks.
Changing. All right. So would you like to make that motion?
Yeah. I'll move to rescind the proposal for the amendment to bylaw 10.10 that was voted on in the November board meeting.
Chris Beecha? All right. So Sean and Chris, seconds. And your motion is to
Rescind the proposal regarding the amendment to bylaw 10.10
Okay. All
from
right.
November meeting.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. The ayes have it, and you voted to rescind that motion, and then also to with Ronnie, we'll start our review. And I don't know who will be president next year, Sean, but I would encourage them to include you on the bylaws committee, if not chair, since you do have the history of everything that we just talked about. Ah, exactly. You have to plan ahead, folks. Plan ahead. All right. Let's see. Review and any possible approval of board candidate or revenue ruling ballot items. I don't know who has that one.
I'll take it. We drew for these last meeting
Mhm.
for the placeholders, and then this revenue ruling, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, we do every year to move those funds.
That is correct.
And I will make a motion to approve both.
So your motion is to approve the revenue ruling? Is that what you're saying?
And the
Board candidate?
board candidate ballot.
Ballot. Okay. All right. Any discussion? All right. Dylan has made a motion and Bria seconded that we would approve those ballot the ballot item of the revenue ruling and the board candidates in their position. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. There you go. All right. It's approved 9-0. Thanks, Dylan. All right. Let's see. Now we're going to consider and take possible action on the scheduling the town hall in January. Rich, you want to throw that one out there?
I believe we've discussed the 24th at 6 o'clock. That's on the schedule right now, if everybody's acceptable with that date and time. The 24th, Saturday at 6 o'clock. It's a week after the Women's Forum.
Remind everyone what we'll do at this town hall, or what you'll do specifically.
That's town hall, basically everything that we just went over as far as the ballots and the proposed bylaw change. So it'll be basically an introduction to the election, naming the candidates, going over the revenue ruling, and then a presentation on the road reserve fund.
Hate that we're going to talk about the candidates after the forum, but I just don't think we can get together before the women's forum.
Is it possible to do that at the town hall on the 17th?
Just do a quick introduction. I mean, that's all it is basically these are the candidates. You get to pick 3 of them. It's going over more the system of electing the
What the
candidates.
process is in the ballot items, right?
Correct.
Could we not do it on the town hall on the 17th? We have that scheduled at the 4 o'clock, I believe.
Watercraft meetings at 4 to 6, and the
Mhm.
Kiowa Women's Club candidate forums at 6:30 to
6:30.
7:30.
Mhm.
So yeah, Rich could start off with the general town hall from 6 to 6:30 or 6 to 6:10. I don't know how long it's going to last.
Portion won't last long if we do the road ballot item on the following Saturday, because that may take a little bit longer, have questions, but we could do the basic ballot introduction and how to elect the candidates before the women's forum.
You don't like the idea of doing the road presentation, or
Well, not if we only have a half an hour. I don't know if we get crunched for time at all. And I know they probably want to do their setup and everything too.
Well, it's a town hall. And so we have to put the agenda out for the town hall. So we could certainly do the election and ballot items and road at the very beginning at 4, and then go into the watercraft piece right after that.
More people will come. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I would think it in any way that we can make that work. Okay. Does that meet everyone's approval? We'll just continue with the town hall that we have now and add this item to the agenda.
So it'll be the town hall, election town hall at 4. and then it's whatever time to follow, it'll be the rules, and then after that, it'll be the women's forum at 6:30. Okay.
We've already approved that one, so we should be good. All right. Okay. Moving on. Any other, how about the mixer for the board candidates? Anything that we need to approve there?
I don't know if we need to approve anything, but I think you just have to let the public know that we're all, because we're going to do a quorum. We have a mixer with the board candidates on a every year. My recommendation was to do it during the week because we have so many weekends tied up. So anyone have a problem with like a Thursday 8th, Thursday the 15th, something like that? What was your recommendation? I forgot.
15th.
Yeah. It's a lot that week because we're going to meet again 17th, but
January.
you have to put it out there because we're going to establish a quorum.
January the 15th, 6 p.m. So what you want, Dylan? 6? The candidates be there.
So I move that we do the Lake Kiowa candidate mixer with the POA board on January 15th at 6 p.m.
Have you checked with the candidates? I'm just, oh,
All right. You have a motion before you to approve the candidates mixer on January the 15th at 6 p.m. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. You've approved that 9-0. All right. Thank you. How about since Pete's not here, you're going to do the ACC? All right.
Sure. Next slide, Scott. This one is something that's typical, but a little convoluted. We're doing a deconstitution of lots, and then following that, a constitution will be part of it. You have at the corner of Santee and Comanche, lots 1591 and 1603, that will be deconstituted. The house is demolished or raised already. The home at 1590 at the corner will then purchase the other lot, which has a garage on it, and that'll be combined with his lot. ACC has reviewed all the requirements as far as septic survey, and they've all approved that portion. Scott, next slide. If you can see this lot, it actually backs up to both roads, Comanche and Santee. So the house is on Comanche and the garage is on Santee. The owner at 1590 at the corner wants to purchase the lot with the garage and add that to his. So those two lots will be split. The house is getting removed. The builder, Jessica Martinson, will build a new house on that lot. And then after that's all completed, because it has to be deconstituted first, that lot needs to be purchased and then it needs to be constituted. So the deconstitution can happen now, go to the county. And after that's done, that lot needs to be purchased because it needs to be separated first to be purchased. That closing will probably be in February, and then it's going to come back to be constituted, but it's kind of one action, chicken before the egg. So it's one complete project, but you have to approve the deconstitution first. But the only reason we're doing that is also so the person can constitute it as well. And of course, he'd like that approval. And it's actually in the documents that he needs that approval before he purchases it. So it's kind of a little mix to get both of these things done all at once. Next slide. You can kind of see the properties again from an aerial, where the house is and where the garage is. Next slide. All the affidavits have been signed and the septic's good. I think it's the next slide. Well, this kind of just shows you where the house is, and you can barely see the garage behind the tree, but that's what he's purchasing to go along with his house. And then the house is already gone. That's on Comanche 1591. It's already been demolished. And then septic's been looked at, and that's all good too. ACC recommends to the board to approve the deconstitution and the subsequent constitution of lots.
I just have a process question. So usually when you deconstitute a lot, they have to, since there wasn't a house on that one, typically they'd have to remove the structure and kill the sewer, etc. Since are we voting to allow them not to do that because it's deconstituting and constituting all in the same transaction?
Correct. Thank you. That's basically the hinge point on that, is to keep that garage. If she was just going to do this without him purchasing that, the garage would be demolished as well.
All right. You have a recommendation from the ACC to deconstitute those lots, 1591 and 1603. Is there a motion? Chris? A second? Cecil? All right. Any other discussion?
We have a tendency to get in a pickle later on, so just one more question. Totally for what they're doing here, but does this open us up to have some other person deconstitute something with a longer contract? Mr. Tidwell, that's probably directed at you. Totally for what they're doing. I know the people, but I just want to understand the potential problems.
Just to go in here, let's say the sale doesn't go through. They basically have 30 days to solve anything per our governing documents. So let's say he doesn't purchase that lot, then that'll be a vacant lot, and she'll have to demolish the garage. Correct. Because she'll own that lot. That's why I said if the sale doesn't go through. If let's say Joe backs out of buying that property for whatever reason, or it doesn't close, then it becomes just a vacant lot where the garage has to be demolished. Yes. Doesn't happen in this way very often, but it does happen.
Any other discussion? Good question. Nope. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. No opposed. And so approved 9-0 to deconstitute 1591 and 1603. All right. Next on the agenda is the Lodge and Tavern update. And so somebody going to talk about the wine lottery? Is that you, Ronnie? All right.
Yes, we had the lottery last week, and also at the same time we had the gathering here with 15 people and 2 suppliers of wine that will be supplying people if they ask for Jeremy to order their wine from our particular distributors. It was very well attended. It was very enjoyable. Jeremy had a big charcuterie board that we kind of grazed through from time to time. Dylan behaved himself. There we have 14 units remaining. We had 22 of the wine cabinets and 9 of the controlled temperature cabinets for sale. Or for rent. We had 3 of those taken, and so we have still have 6 of those left that go at $500 per year, and everyone will be charged. Who acquired one will be charged through the POA. I guess maybe the big one significance is that we have 6 of the temperature controlled units that are available to the community. So anyone that wants to order some wine from Jeremy and have him place it in the cooler for their dinner that night can do so. So I think there's each one of those trays holds 16 bottles of wine. So we'll be able to accommodate everyone. The response has been excellent from the people in the community stopping by and asking what was going on. And we had a lot more interest at the end, and Jeremy has already gotten several more calls of people that want to move forward, and it's open to anyone that wants one now. Any questions?
Are we still online to meet the financial, I'll call it obligation that we proposed, that this would be I guess, ultimately an investment that would pay for itself in whatever it was, 2 years or?
Yes, we have already collected enough to pay half of the total cost of 16,000.
Any other questions? All right. How about the RFP? Ronnie or Rich? Either one of you going to talk about that, or we're going to wait for next month?
I'm fine to talk about it. We had talked through the Lodge and Tavern Committee several times about the expansion of the bar, opening it up on the dining area side. And before we went forward with a vote, we wanted to find out what the cost would be. So Jeremy contacted two different sources to do preliminary bids and estimates. And one did so, the other one decided it was too big a job for him. We got that. It appears that the request would be not to exceed $125,000 to do it. The procedure would be to close down the existing dining areas while they did the work. The dining area would be moved to here in this room, and it would take 4 to 6 weeks to complete. But before we move further at all, we wanted to see what the board's temperature was as to the cost of 125,000. And the Lodge and Tavern Committee also will have to consider that at length. But primarily, if it's something the board feels is too expensive, then we'll move on. And if it's something that seems reasonable, you see some of the AI generated drawings of what it will look like according to the present plans that Jeremy has come up with. And I think it's very attractive. I think it would be beneficial, but it's a question of the cost and where we are. And Rich can address where it would come from and what we have already allocated.
Go ahead.
A little further in your packet, you can have two CARF sheets. You would follow the second one in 2026. I put that, temporarily in at the bottom of the proposed projects. If we were to do that along with all the other projects, we'd have about $100,000 left in CARF, and about, as I spoke before, we still have the $86,000 in CDRF available too. The one thing I did was, the other thing that's a large item that's in beyond now are the playgrounds, but we don't know how much the playgrounds would cost. Which, if we would do both of them, how much because we're kind of also talking about the donation money possibly coming, and we also have money for playgrounds in ARF. So that's a lot of discussions around the playground. And I only bring that up because those are two items we were kind of targeting to do as well. And all the money, it's always this shuffle of what becomes a priority or what you want to push forward. But I think that's the only thing, everything else is suitable for 2026. The only thing that kind of gets pushed out is the playgrounds, possibly, depending on how we look at it.
Just a design question. This has, like, in the proposed look, it has like floor to ceiling windows. Are y'all thinking that as well? On the lake side, I'm going to call it, or is that just AI and scope of work? Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of see the versions there. One of them does have that. One thing that is included is the floor. Part of the plan is to have all the carpet taken out and all go into hard surface flooring. So that is included. Just wanted to point that out too.
That'd be the flooring for the entire restaurant and okay. All right. The whole, okay.
Rich,
Question, just a logistical question about moving the dining room into here. So that eliminates our meeting here, right? Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe.
Okay.
Probably.
And hopefully it's a 4-month project, but every time you remodel a kitchen, it takes twice as long and costs twice as much. I don't know. Just a question.
Yes. 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah.
Instructions still say 8 weeks.
Is there a feeling that the utility of is this an engineered hardwood thing that would hold up to? I realize that every one was like rubber cleats or whatever, but
It would be similar to what's in the hallway.
okay.
People wear their golf spikes in here, so I was just curious. I think a lot of people want this. You go in there and the 19th hole is jam packed and no one wants to be on that dining room side. So I think it would open the area up. I'm for it. Just generally need to do today.
Yeah, I agree. I like it very much. Is there any, knowing that it looks like there's a lot more bar seating, so would this enhance total capacity to Dylan's point, or is that, you know,
Not quite 3 times the amount, but close to that.
I mean, well, just on the bar, but I mean probably 19th hole, everything, it's a wash probably. Okay.
So one of the biggies I see in this is the code issues that we presently have. It addresses that. So that's a big plus. Just wondering if we did move forward, what happens with with the coding issues that we live with.
We will resolve those.
Yeah. Then the other thing is the two exit doors remain, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they got to.
To address Ronnie's question, I think doing this for that amount of money is something that I could be comfortable with. I don't think that's a non-starter from my perspective.
John?
2 questions. First of all, I'll just preface, like, I think it looks great. I like the concept with the, but going to these kind of floors, opening the wall, is there any kind of like noise concern? And
Yeah, initially it was carpet because of noise concerns. Everybody has a different feeling about that. One thing from a maintenance standpoint and everything else, the hard surface is easier to take care of, easier to clean, everything else. There's positive and negatives to both. Noise would be a factor.
Excuse me. How well do we know the contractor? So I'm sorry.
We don't have a contractor yet. We have
We've got somebody that gave us a bid.
an estimate, and we have not vetted him. We asked
Oh, okay.
2 out, and we'll have to submit the request for proposals.
Thank you.
Yeah, at this cost, it'll have to be advertised. It'll have to go out to RFP.
so my second, I don't know if it's really a question, maybe more of a concern. Again, I think this looks great. I think it'd be a good thing. But in the back of my mind, there's a little bit of concern about how there's a perception of being overextended on several construction projects throughout the community, the front gate, pickleball, walking trail, things that we talked about for like months, if not years. And like, I'm just concerned about like just continuing to bite off. Like, this isn't huge, but like some bigger projects and just getting to completion and just the balancing act of the number of things we've got going throughout the community.
It's just part of putting things in line too, is if you don't have any, desire to move forward with this, that's one thing. Another next step would be just like everything else, figure out actual final design we want, then RFP, figure out what the actual cost is going to be, and then whatever that timing is. But if you think it's a good idea in general, then we can keep moving forward with it. If this isn't something you think that for the cost, it's not worth it, we're not looking at what the ROI is. Is it just something you don't want to do because you want to keep both the 19th hole and the dining room separate? That's what you got to look at now. If it's something you think we might want to do in the future, you got to figure out the cost and timing and then, address that when it comes up.
But I do agree with Sean. In the last SAT survey, there was a lot of comments like, all right, what are we doing while we starting new things when we haven't finished things? So, I agree. I mean, personally, I think we should move forward, but I also think we should, understand where this fits in from a time point of view, and can we get a couple of things done to help make people more comfortable? We're not just spending more and more money and not getting anything done.
Well, the other hurdle is 4 to 6 weeks, probably at a minimum, that you've got your main dining and bar area down. It would just kind of make sure we got that all pinned.
Realistically, when would this happen? Like if we said go today, y'all go figure it out. Is this like a winter 2026? You're not going to do it in summer.
Yes. We'd want to do it in the winter.
So kind of to Rich's point, we need to start the process today. I don't know that we'll have a front entrance done by then, but it's just, you kind of got to start the process we're a year away from starting.
I think something we need to look at is having a penalty clause in relation to completion in our future contracts. It's something we do commercially all the time, so no reason we shouldn't.
So the next step really is you're going to have to put together the design that you want and all your specs and everything before you send it out for an RFP. So who's going to do that design work? because that'll be a cost involved in that. Okay. All right.
The other thing we want to emphasize with the committee is that we need to start now, as the Par 3 committee did, and start looking at donations to defray the cost. And that ought to be something we do as a standard measure on everything we do from now on. It works so well.
Okay. All right. What is you given Ronnie your feedback? You'd like to move forward and get some more detail?
My only comment is I love the fact that the community has donated millions of dollars at this point over the last few years. But I also hesitate to say that's the only way we get things done going forward. So if someone wants to, if we want to ask people for money, I have no problem with it, but I don't want to predicate some of these things. Like, to me, playground is an important safety issue. And if we can't do that because we don't get enough donations, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. Same with this. So, I have no problem saying if someone, you know, wants to write a check for the bar area and improving that. But I just hate to think that that's the only way things get prioritized going forward, that safety, some other things might weigh in before how big of a check someone's all willing to write.
Any other feedback? You got your feedback that people are interested in moving forward and seeing what the next steps are. You haven't come to us for any other action. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. And so you have your feedback from the board. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. All right. Moving forward, community manager report, Rich.
All right, what I have at the top is funding requests. Again, no funding requests at this time from any of the reserve funds. I kind of just have just some numbers laid out there for you from what all the reserve fund expenses were so far this year and what our revenue was through November. We'll have one more month of revenue, but you can see we're, reserve funds, and just want to point this out and probably do it every year. Just, overall deficit, each reserve fund's a little bit different, but over $400,000 deficit again this year. And I think we were $500,000 last year. So every year our reserve funds get depleted. And just wanted to bring that to light. Every time we look at everything individually, when you're looking at it a whole like that, you can see all the different buckets. Project updates, pickleball courts. We had a couple meetings with the Sports Kings, who was our main contractor, and then their sub. They had taken samples to Teradyne, our consultant, for the select fill. Got the results actually earlier today. The select fill was not appropriate and doesn't meet the specifications. We're still working with that supplier. He has different sources. That source was the closest. The only issue of going out to other sources or different locations is this one was 4 miles away and the next one will be further away. So it'll affect trucking and timing and everything. So we'll get in contact with them and see when we can get the next test and next results. Front entrance. Bluestone has been working with bids and contractors. Their bids were due on the 19th. I sent a message out to them to see where they were. I know they had some RFIs from some of the bidders. I don't know if they were completed and if they may have extended the deadline. But hopefully those will be getting close. So next month, hopefully we'll have some bids to look at and see what the costing and pricing is of the front entrance project. Little Wolf Trail, I put in your packet the RFP. We'll be sending that out at beginning of the year. We're looking at middle of February of trying to get some results back. So again, next month, hopefully we'll have some costs in from the contractors on the trail as well. So talking about projects moving forward, hopefully all these are making some kind of traction. Lake management, Cecil and I met with Solitude. They did their initial testing for a couple of the coves for their Trimarine product. Some good initial results, very encouraging, but the composite of the tests they weren't that very happy with. So they're going to do some more testing of the coves as well. And we'll get back with that. I don't know the timing on that precisely, but again, we'll probably discuss that again next February and have more information. Par 3 course, 9-hole, like James mentioned. MGA donated some money. We've put the order in for the hitting mats. They have about the 6 to 8 week lead time. We'll have to pour the pads for them. And those are for the permanent hitting mats. There'll be one at each hole. Right now, we have some temporary mats out there. So I have a copy of the community map, which has gotten a few more comments. I'll be meeting with Antero Group to go over that and some other items second week of January. If anybody has any more comments that they have on the map, just let me know. One thing that's not on there that I was thinking about adding was, and it may have to do with the rules meeting we go to and discuss all the watercraft, but was thinking of putting on the map where the ski in, ski out, no wake areas were on the map, but I left those off for now because we may, who knows, some of that may change possibly. Also heard back from VBA regarding the dam. They should have a technical memo to me sometime in January as well regarding basically results of their investigation of the piezometer data. We gave them some engineering info and trying to figure out the basically just logistics of doing some of the repairs on the downstream side. So should have some more information that in January, February as well. Department updates. You can see, the public works report, security report I have in your packet. Lodge and Tavern, we went over the bar expansion. Also wanted to note the heaters were installed. We're also looking at the financials I had in the packet as far as the Lodge and Tavern goes. I put the financials in there. You can see for the year, we're probably still going to be about $100,000 over, but the revenue is way up. So again, percentage wise, doing much and much better on the lodge every year. I think, let's say 21, 22, 23, we were on about 700 some thousand, a little under $800,000 a year. We've gone to over $1 million to now about a $1.25 million. So the revenue has increased drastically over the last couple of years. So even though our losses have, been a little bit less and kind of stagnating, just the percentage loss has drastically, reduced. Also wanted to mention in golf, had a comment about the sand traps and some of the issues. One of those issues is the type of sand that was used. I guess, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago has it been when we did the sand? Somewhere around there that they selected 2 different sands and they're actually different granular sizes. So the one granular, it especially on a slope, it'll drop down to the lower side. So it takes a lot more maintenance. And generally, he not to say anything, but he does more maintenance in the summer than the winter. One solution is that all the sand needs to get replaced. That's due to be replaced in RF next year. We got $70,000 to replace the sand. But Brian's recommendation would be use the same, take all the sand out that we have now, use a different sand, the sand that we use at the par 3. If everyone, everybody likes that sand, he'd rather use one type of sand and use that sand. It's one type and it's much easier to work with.
So just as some background, it was me that made the
Turn off. There we go.
it was me that made the forward message to Rich in regards to sand traps. Last week I was at 17 and found 2 pieces of the polymer, 2 big pieces about this long that had been chunked out of one of the facing of the sand trap. So, back to where they are in the condition. If you go along the face of those, and probably 90% of our traps, people are hitting their clubs against the trap because there's not enough against the polymer because there's not enough sand in there. So it's from the way they should be. Plus, it's also a safety. It could be a safety issue. Someone could get hurt. Let alone golfers wrecking the expensive structure that we put in. How many years ago did you say? About 7. That was an expensive venture to go do that design with the polymer bottom, and we don't want it all beat up.
So if I understood what you said, Brian wants to replace all the sand now, not wait another year.
Well, it's 2026, so it's basically now, but let's say
All right.
January, February, whenever whenever we do it in this next year, it's scheduled to be
Okay.
done in 2026.
Okay. All right.
Does Brian know the cost potentially difference of taking all it out? And I mean, to me, $70,000 doesn't seem like a lot to do that. So, I mean, I have no idea what the cost could be or should be.
He'll have to look into the cost. That's what we have in budget, so we'll have to see what it is.
And then Cecil, did you have a question about Trimarine or comment?
for Trimarine, and Rich knows, but they were out here and pulled their second set of samples this last week, and their product or commercial development person sent me an email and said it would be probably the middle of January because it gets sent off to a university for analysis. So there'll be something coming in within the next 30 days, and we'll meet with them again once they have the results. And again, it's a wait and see. We're got our fingers crossed that it's going to be something that we can move forward on, but it's one step at a time.
Any other comments for Rich? Anything else? You have some more?
Always just trying to think. One other thing to mention, and Jim may know about it. I spoke to Dee Dorman, and she was speaking for the MGA and the WGA. She said approximately $20,000 they have earmarked as well for another item we have on our CARF budget, which is a pro shop patio. I know I had previous bids for that, and it was around 60 to 80,000, depending on what you do for the covered patio. But I think was approximately $20,000 in donations from both the MGA and WGA, possibly for that. But that's another thing we'll have to look at and move forward. I have Jim Fox doing a couple drawings so we can have a better idea what that would look like, and it'll be modeled after the rear patio of the lodge. So you're looking at more of a pergola style with that type of roof and maybe a little bit of stone accents is what we'd be going for.
Question.
Sure. Larry?
Does that address the, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4, number 5 bullet point down there on golf course pro shop items? And it says second item there, pro shop outdoor ceiling fan, electrical and mounting repair scheduled.
On your report, Rich. It's on your report.
On the report was a pro shop outdoor ceiling fan, electrical and mounting repairs. That is something completely different. It's pro shop, but it's the ceiling fans that go around the veranda that are currently there.
Okay.
Quick question.
Chris?
Just back up talking about pickleball courts. I'm sure the people that are digging into the sand to get it over to Teradyne understand that there's a lot of pressure on time delay. Okay. Just hurry every chance you get.
Any questions? Other questions for Rich or anything? All right. Any additional business to come before us?
Probably should have done a better job of this. We had a lady that came to our Thursday meeting and proposed that we think about trademarking Lake Kiowa. And I thought that was a terrific proposal, but I surely didn't get it on the agenda, of course. What do we need to do more than just think about it? Besides talking to James about trademarking.
So typically you will have a specific attorney that handles all of that because you've got to go through the patent and trademark office and there's all these portals and things like that, but we can definitely follow up with that.
I'm sure there's a cost involved in all that.
Yes.
Okay.
So how do you move it forward? You talk to Rich and you say, Rich, would you please work with James and get the process for us and get the cost?
Would you do that?
Certainly.
Okay. All right.
I think we've moved that forward. Yes. All right. Any additional business? Thanks, Chris, for that reminder. Any other comments from the members? Jim?
To address the trademark question real quick, we've talked about this once before, and the only reason you do that is if somebody's branding your stuff somewhere else and you don't want them to do that. I don't think we have that problem to worry about, and it's not like we're selling things outside Lake Kiowa. We sell stuff to members, so I'm not sure the benefit for versus the cost that we'd have to pay.
It's not that much money. It does cost something. I've got one of our businesses. We've got a trademark, so no one steals
Yeah, but it's a business. You don't want somebody to steal it, and that's different. We're not really a bit. Yeah, do whatever.
Well, people steal all
just
kinds of
passing on. It came up before, and I don't know that it's worth it because we're not selling stuff.
I wish this lady was here. She really made the point, as Dallas moves this way, that we've already got a guy up the road that's got Lake Kiowa RV park. We've got Manners of Lake Kiowa. You know, we've got a good reputation. We've got
So the question to ask, yeah.
yeah. So we should protect it.
So the question to ask is, do we care if there's a Lake Kiowa RV park, or are we afraid if they trademark it, then we can't use our name? We were here already. I don't think that's a law that they can come back and prevent us from using it. But yeah, let the attorneys look at it.
Yeah, I just don't think you want them to run your name into the mud if it's a subpar something or another.
Okay.
I think the concern is because we're a private community, that those people that live in those places or a part of them don't have the same privileges that we do, that they consider that they can come in here. Just an advertisement or a protection, I believe, was what the lady's concern was. So,
And I mean, we have to ask James, but I don't think because you trademark it, you can go tell Lake Kiowa RV Park to change their name. So I don't think that's really solves a lot. That's all I'm trying to say. But yeah,
correct.
okay. But so the other comments I had were related to Chelsea. You mentioned something about the points, Dylan, and several years ago, I got very involved in the point system. I have a document. I called Chelsea I got permission from Brown, who was over things back then. I called Chelsea because we had an uprising out here about people getting tea times and weekenders getting tea times, and people are getting, it was a problem just like you were mentioning. So we went and documented Chelsea how it works. And so I have that document if you want to, and then it'll go through everything. And I will tell you, we've studied this a lot already. And the problem is not Chelsea. I mean, you can change Chelsea different ways and make it work different and give priorities to weekenders if you want. Give priorities to weekenders on weekends. You can do whatever you want to do. Chelsea can do it pretty much. It'll cost a little bit of money to change it. But the problem right now is people are abusing the system, and people are putting dead people in there. People are putting their family members that aren't playing, and that's how they're lowering their points to get better tee times. So until you solve that problem, which is penalizing people and somebody enforcing it, which nobody likes to go do, so that's the real problem, I think.
Those were things we did discuss as well. No dead people were brought up, but similar.
Yeah, well, I've seen them. So just a question really on the pickleball. So we're testing the dirt that's already there. I thought we did that a while back. We're testing the dirt that they're bringing in, and that's the dirt that we went and found for this company, because this company was supposed to bring the dirt in. Okay, all right. But that company's responsible for bringing in the dirt and getting it tested, right?
That's correct.
So what are we involved for? Why are you doing their work? Okay. Well, it sounded like you said I went back and did this and that. Okay.
Nope. They
Well,
sent us the test results, which is
Well,
what
if the
we asked
company
for.
is finally doing something, that's good. And then my only finally comment is on the bar. I like the idea personally, but I would suggest that you all start polling membership in general, getting feedback. I like the idea. I think it would make it nicer in general and better use of the area. But if you ask my wife, she's going to tell you, no, that's wrong. I want to go over there and sit and be quiet when I want to go sit and be quiet. And I know that's the sentiment for a number of people. And so it's probably a minority, but apparently you are concerned about minorities based on some comments about tea times and stuff. So, what's that? Okay. I might not, yeah, whatever. Remember, the majority votes for you, though. Okay, so those were my comments, and
We're concerned about all of our
I
members.
know you
Jim.
are. I know.
Okay. Just making sure, you know. that we take care, we consider
You should be taking
everybody's
care of the
comment.
opinions of most of the people and doing what you think is the right thing.
We take care of the comments of everybody in this community. May not act on all of them, but we do take care of them.
I understand. You're listening. You listen to them. You don't take care of all the comments of the people, because
Did
if you did, I'd just come with you and say, I want something, and you do it, but you don't. Okay.
I take care of it. I take care of it. I take care of it. Doesn't mean I have an action on it. Yes, ma'am. You got a microphone right there.
Lisa Foltz, Lat 263. I like the idea of the bar. I'm a little worried about having the dining room in this room for the 6 to 8 or more weeks, because this room is so utilized. There is not a way that you could have the dining room in here and have all the activities that are currently scheduled in this room to be in this room. So if you could schedule the demolition and the 6 to 8 weeks at a time when people were using the patio, so you could just have the 19th hole in the patio be used and not have the dining room be used, then I would suggest that that's the time frame that you use, because this room is so utilized, there's really no way you could have the dining room set up in here.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other comments from the members? Hearing none at this point in time, we will take a break, and then we will be going into executive session after we come back from the break. Let's see, we'll go until 8 o'clock. That's 13 minutes from now. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.